Hello and welcome to the very first episode of The Connection Compass. I'm Andrea Evans, your host, and today I'll be sharing the story behind The Connection Compass. So we're going to talk a little bit about myself and the work I'm doing around connection and well-being. As someone new to podcasting, I've loved learning the process and I'm excited to take this journey with you. For updates and more, you can visit my website at andrealevans.com. So what can I tell you about me? Well, I love to create and write. I am passionate about humans and our experiences here on Earth. I very rarely see things at surface level, and inspiration for me comes from the natural world around and the symbolism that it holds. Life has encouraged me to dig deep over the years and find deeper meaning in what we see and experience in our lifetime. I'm fascinated by our human experiences and, we're just so full of possibility and potential. It's there to be tapped into if we want to. And, life can throw us some really hard curveballs sometimes, yet even in the darkest of moments, our experiences can be alchemized into something positive. We can learn something about ourselves that not only helps us to expand and develop as individuals, but may also just help and support another in their darkest times too. Life is such an incredible journey. It's daunting, it's amazing, it's scary and exciting as much as it can be hard, beautiful, fragile and tender. I have this real drive to think, see and do things differently, and I'm dedicated to empowering others to explore their unique potential and capabilities. So whether that's working with private clients one-to-one or partnering with corporates, I always strive to create better experiences for individuals and the aspects of life and work and relationships as well. So I'm here today as a creator, a coach, a yoga and meditation teacher and writer. But something else you might need to know about me as well is that I've also have over 2 decades of experience as an award-winning nurse working in infectious diseases, public health roles, quality improvement and clinical governance. And it's through that diverse background and personal journey I've cultivated a passion for holistic well-being and human potential. And what I usually say is that my work is grounded in 3 themes. So holistic well-being, coaching and mentoring, and cultures of care and connection. And I'm really passionate about holding a human-focused approach. And I aim to weave connection into everything that I do, fostering resilience, creativity and well-being. And connection in our world is such an important topic right now, particularly as you just sense and feel, and I guess you see through media and social media platforms that there's so much fragmentation, disconnection, and polarization. So, how did I get here to doing what I'm doing today? Well, like most journeys, from there to here, there is always a starting point. And my story is no different and begins from a place of disconnection from myself, from the people that surrounded me to places that I worked and lived in at that time. If you've ever visited my website, andrealevans.com, you will have seen the tagline, harnessing well-being and ability to thrive through a culture of care and connection. To me, this feels like an incredibly important statement, especially in today's modern world. In our fast-paced world that often feels chaotic in nature, it's difficult to notice, to take care, and to connect. And I suppose over the years, I've noticed how much attention goes to the big news stories that are often fueled for months and even years. Yet there are some things that are not mentioned that are really important for our connection to our humanness, that go unnoticed or not given a moment's thought. There is an obsession for the past and the future, but very little time for the present moments. And those present moments are just so important. They are so fragile. They can be gone in the flicker of an eye, but they're also full of life and possibility and potential opportunity. We just have to take notice. We just have to see it and feel it. And perhaps we have to sit in a space of nothingness for a little while for it to reveal itself. But life happens in the present, and we only have one life here on earth. The preoccupation with what we see and judge is it feels so loud, it's such a noise that we are not prepared to go beyond skin level to what we see on the surface. But it's when we dig deep, it's when we take our time to really get to know the person next to us that we start to see commonalities, we start to see the experiences that we share that may not be visible on the surface of the skin. To me, it's almost as if the world is too scared to turn inwards and look at itself and embrace the issues that we should really be concerned about, and to turn around this disregard of human life and for all that is human, and acknowledge how important and how sacred we are. It feels to me that we are so connected by technology. You can reach out to the person right across the world in the blink of an eye. But the disconnection to all that is human and our lives here on earth is huge. And I feel that the gap is widening every day. The portfolio of work that I've grown over the past 7 years has not been easy. It's been a journey of the unknown. It's been full of twists and turns. It's drove me insane sometimes. It hasn't always made sense to me. But there is one thing that has been constant, and knowing that it has a purpose and that I just had to keep going. Over recent months, given that I've had more time to focus on projects, I can see this work coming together now, and I can see that it has a place in the context of our wider world and all that is happening right now. This work was born out of my own disconnection, really. Recently, I sat down and I wrote down what disconnection looked like for me. And I actually written down 21 factors that were on the list that show how I was feeling disconnected. So obviously I'm not going to share all 21 factors with you now. But it was things like not feeling like I belonged, having low self-confidence and self-esteem, It was feeling quite lonely and feeling like I was in my own world in social circumstances. Now, according to the Oxford Dictionary, disconnection means that we're separated from someone or something and not fitting together or understanding each other. Disconnection for me was not understanding myself and what I really needed. I didn't really know what was happening, or I didn't understand how I was able to move out of the ruts that I found myself in. And I'm not sure what led to the disconnection as such, but an accumulation perhaps of a series of stresses in my late 20s. It was such a horrible time, and perhaps one of the times in my life that I'd actually like to go back and redo. These days, there seems to be more of an awareness that in your late 20s, that it's a time of your Saturn return. Now, at the time, I hadn't heard anything like that, but it's the point at which Saturn returns to the same place where it was placed at your birth. That's if you're astrologically minded. I know some of you might not. And often in podcasts, I might throw in a little bit of astrology or kind of spiritual theory or something. Hopefully it will resonate with some of you, but if not, please just take what resonates and leave what doesn't. But at your Saturn return, it's known as a time of when you're more likely to break free of limitations. I don't remember at the time, I don't really remember hearing much about Saturn return. But now that I know about it, I wish I had been, because I think I would have navigated that time a little differently. I felt really confused at the time, and I felt like I should have been having the time of my life, and all my friends were settling down and having or planning children. And I couldn't work out why it wasn't like that for me. I always felt that there was so much more that I should be doing, but I didn't know what I needed to do to get there. And I felt stuck and unable to move. And what transpired was that I started with panic attacks, and my whole day was filled with panic attacks and trying to get over them. And it just felt exhausted. So this disconnection for me, my days were full with panic attacks. It was exhaustion. I was confused. I felt lonely in groups. I wasn't using my skill set properly, and nothing seemed to be falling into place. And no matter how hard I tried to find a solution, it was like holding life in your hands. But that life felt like sand just slipping through my fingers, and I just couldn't grasp it. I felt afraid of the future and what was going to happen to me. And as I said, I just had this really low self-worth, confidence and self-esteem. And I just felt like I was on autopilot all the time and drifting through the motions. I wished and hoped for something more, and I would have done anything that I needed to do. I just couldn't find the action that I needed to take to move forwards. So it really isn't a time that I wanted to repeat. I'd love to go back and do it differently. And this is life, we have these moments through our lifetime. These days, I'm much more skilled at recognizing when disconnection is happening. And I think in our modern days, it's so easy to become disconnected. We can source guidance outside of ourselves first, before we come to our own inner wisdom. It's important to recognize the signs of disconnection and create our own toolkit to resource ourselves. We are the same in so many ways in this world, but we're also so unique. So what works for me and what works for you and what works for another person may be different. What I've learned along the way is that when feelings of disconnection persist, it's sometimes referred to as depersonalization disorder. With this, most people feel aware that what they are experiencing isn't reality and that they have a sense that something is just off. And I suppose my advice to you is if you're recognizing these symptoms, and it's really important that you seek help and support you need. In these times of difficulties, I always ask myself three things. Do I need to talk to a friend? Do I need to talk to a family member? Or do I need to seek the support of a professional? Many people, like myself, recover from depersonalization disorders with help and support. In the UK, you have, the NHS, you can call 111, you can call the Samaritans, and there'll be other similar organisations across the world. So it's really important that you do get the right help and support that you need. So what happened in my reconnecting years? How did I get myself out of this disconnection? Well, the first part of my recovery was acknowledging that I needed to get some help, that I couldn't just do this on my own. And initially, I was referred for a CBT initially, but from a personal perspective, it wasn't right for me. I then entered some psychotherapy sessions, which I found really helpful. One of my first priorities was to control the panic attacks. They were so debilitating. And I went to a local yoga class. It was 90 minutes long. And that first class that I went to, I was having a panic attack the whole way through. But what really resonated with me and what has stuck with me to this day, and something that I teach first in any yoga class, is that connection to the breath. And it really clicked with me that if I just focused on my breath, the panic attacks would go away. Of course, yoga means union. We are connecting the mind, the body, and the breath. So as we focus on the breath, the mind starts to settle. And as the mind settles, the body starts to relax too. But in those early days, it was all about the focus on the breath for me, that having that connection with myself and noticing me and how that feels. So as time went on, I started to feel stronger. I started to make appropriate changes in my life, and life started to improve. Now, I did make some big changes. And if you're experiencing something similar, please know that you don't have to do any big shifts at all. And it's all about the little changes that are going to matter the most. But for me, I sold my house, I gave up my job, and I traveled the world. And I really started to open up and move out of this constriction that I'd put myself in. And I started to do things that I really love to do and not what I thought I should be doing. I felt that I had somehow become lost and buried under what I thought was expected of me from a professional and societal perspective. And the more aligned I became with my values and my own wants and needs, things started to open up even more and change for the better. My disconnection was 19 years ago now, and my connected years are very different to how life looked back then. So when I think of that time, I shudder, and I think about how constricted I was, and I wasn't doing the things that I loved at all. I don't know what I was doing, to be honest with you. But I just know, I think back to that time and it was very closed time. And now, through the connection years, I returned to writing. I blogged all the way through my travels on a site called blogspot.com. This was 2007, and I came home and did some jewelry making and teaching jewelry making and blogging some more. I wrote a blog called Love Yourself Better for a few years. It's called Andrea Louise Writes now. It's still there, but I haven't written it for a long time. And then I just got to grow this body of work. And so what connection looks like for me these days is that sometimes I still feel lonely in groups, but I know that is temporary and that feeling will pass. And I'm more committed to finding the right people that match my values and that we have connection. I have a knowing, and it's like an anchor inside of me that I belong and that I understand the deeper reasons as to why I felt like I didn't belong in the first place. I seek out work that I love and feel passionate about and that meets my multifaceted skill set. I have to say that's one of the areas that I've struggled the most, is that when I do work and it doesn't use all my skill set, it's fine for a while, but then I start to feel really unhappy and stuck. Now, this is a really, really big one for me, and I have to say that this wasn't present in my 20s at all, but I'm really connected to my creative side, and I really need that creativity in my life, and I cannot function without it. My energy these days is so much higher, and on the bad days, again, I know it's temporary and it will pass. It's just a moment in life and it will turn around. Life is full of ups and downs, and if we just ride them, it will just work out. Everything will be fine. I spend time doing activities that I love, and I have this early recognition of the symptoms of disconnection. And particularly, I think, as I was mentioning about work, and I know I'm starting to become disconnected when I'm somewhere where all that multifaceted skill set isn't being used. Particularly for the long term anyway. In the short term, it's quite manageable, but not long term. And my self-esteem and self-worth and self-confidence are much higher as well. And I speak up when things are not right for me. I have this passion and gratitude for life, and I enjoy life as well. I feel so much gratitude for what we have and what surrounds us. Life is so fragile, and I'm here to appreciate and enjoy every aspect of it, even the dark times. I feel a real deep sense of connection to nature. And so, out of this experience of disconnection, I've grown a body of work over a period of 7 years. It's the idea of growing a culture of care and connection. And it was just an idea, really, and a flicker of a moment that could so easily have been missed. And I often refer to it as the seed that cracked open and grew. I was facilitating a session as part of a quality improvement program, and I had opened the group out for discussion. And as I walked around the room intermittently, listening to the conversations in the room, I realized that there was a common theme within these conversations. There were stories of human struggle being shared, issues of self-confidence, of self-esteem, and a deep worry and concern that what they were doing was right. And from outward appearances, you would never have known that this group were experiencing those worries. And I knew in that moment that there was a need for something deeper here. I realized that we needed to be working towards a culture that was based on care, and not just the type of care that we are taught in a classroom, but a deep, layered and thoughtful, holistic approach type of care. This wasn't just for ourselves, but for each other as well. It was just an idea, and I honestly never thought it would go any further than me changing my approach to something more softer and a commitment to that much needed holistic approach. As time went on, I noticed the little nudges encouraging me to grow and expand the idea of caring for culture. But again, I never really saw it as anything other than existing within my professional field. Over time and years, those little nudges became something more and creative, a game of dot to dot. I knew it was becoming something more, but I couldn't quite make it out. I couldn't quite see the end result. But I held this deep intuitive knowing that one day I would understand it. And each year, a new layer added depth and richness. Some of these ideas became Facebook pages and then they faded into the background. And I can tell you that there have been many stops and starts over the years. There have been many times when I've wanted to just put the work aside as I decided that I didn't want to do it anymore. But then in the middle of the night, I would wake up from sleeping and it'd be like there's little whispers in your ear of go and do this and go and do that. Each whisper guiding me past the obstacles and blocks that I faced. And so I followed with no real idea of where I was going. It was something I just needed to do. And so I suppose it came my purpose and my North Star, Dharma. As the pandemic hit in 2020, I was working on a hospital's infectious disease unit, and it was a hard time as it was for everyone, fraught with worry. It was such an assault on the senses, and the impact of moral injury was all too consuming. There was no time for my North Star, or so I thought. Now, in the pandemic and in between shifts, my place of solace and my place of safety was my garden. If you remember, during 2020, we had the most beautiful weather, didn't we? And when I moved into the house that I lived in now, the garden was overgrown, unloved and uncared for. With the help of my dad, we cut the garden back to a blank canvas, and I grew the garden from there. I really love being there, and some days I crave to be out there as well, just getting to know the garden, where the sun lit each corner and of what time of day. During 2020, the garden became an anchor, a place of safety and downtime. Over the years, it had been a place of creative inspiration and jewelry making and writing. Through the pandemic, it became a healing place of quiet reflection, contemplation, and a place to read and write. I remember one day wondering if the pandemic was ever going to end. And as the sunlight dancing between the movement of the branches in the gentle breeze, I just watched. And a tiny poem entered my mind. In spring we sow, in summer we grow, in autumn we harvest, and in winter we rest, review, and renew. These words provided some comfort, realizing that the seasons change each year. The pandemic was a season in our lives, and that shall so pass. We won't always be in this situation forever. With the poem came another idea, this time to write courses for the seasons, deepening our connection with the earth and nature. I thought about mixing yoga and coaching. And so in 2021, I trialed the courses, and then in 2022, they became online courses. And then in 2023 and 24, they became a series of in-person yoga and coaching retreats. During this time, my own connection with nature grew, and I leant more into nature more than I have ever done so before. Seeking inspiration on a daily basis, I would walk and I would observe nature, connecting what I saw with my own inner thoughts and feelings. Nature became more meaningful, and a sense of interconnectedness between me, the earth, and the people we live and work in on this earth. There was something about the pandemic that ripped off the rose-tinted glasses, though. I couldn't help feeling that it revealed a lack of care and understanding in our world. The greed, the self-absorption, all too clear to see. A culture of bullying, control, and narcissism. It felt like the haters and the dividers, with the loudest of voices and a platform to share and shout from without question. To me, this was total disconnect from ourselves, from each other, the earth and the places that we live and work in. And I asked myself the question, if we were to start again, if we were to press the reset button, what would we do? How would we build a culture that cares and promotes interconnectedness? And I realized that maybe the work I produced might help a little. And I by no means have all the answers or solutions. In fact, I feel I hold very little. But maybe, just maybe, it will help someone someday with a gentle request to take what resonates and to leave behind what doesn't. And so the Connection Compass was born. This is a place of care and connection, and I want you to know that you're so welcome here. So whether you've stumbled upon me by accident or I've invited you to listen, I want you to know that there is never any expectation to be anything other than yourself. The Connection Compass aims to cultivate a culture of care through deep and meaningful conversations, moving from disconnection to connection and creating a more interconnected world. It's about fostering a deeper connection with yourself, the earth, the environments where we live and work in, and the connection with each other. This culture goes beyond conventional teachings of care, and it embraces a holistic, thoughtful approach that considers multiple layers of human connection. And I guess my aim here is that you find something here that inspires you to have a more deep and connected relationship with yourself, your passions, the environments that we live and work in, and each other. That you develop an unshakable inner knowing that you belong here, and no matter what anybody says to you, it's unmovable, it's unshakable. That inner belief that you're meant to be here. And that we recognize that our lives are so interconnected with each other and the world around us. We just have to slow down. We just have to take our time to notice, to care, to get to know the person next to us, and to find that connection. I hope to inspire deeper conversations with each other and find out more beyond what you see. You may be surprised. And I suppose the last thing is to say, if somebody tells you that you can't do something, if somebody tells you that that's impossible, Just don't believe them are lying to you. Everything is possible. It's just that sometimes it can take a long time to get to the destination. And that is what we've become so bad at over the years in this fast-paced world. If we slow down, if we think about things, if we move past the mindset that we'll hold, we will get where we want to be in the end. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Connection Compass. I hope there's something here that resonates. And if you think this episode would help someone, please leave a review at podchaser.com. If you have any questions, please let me know on the Facebook page, Andrea L. Evans. And remember, keep talking, keep connecting for a deeper, interconnected world. See you soon.